Back here at Pluckers, and pleased to be joined by Texas volleyball head coach Jerritt Elliott with the Longhorns fresh off the win last night at Gregory Gym over Texas A&M. You know, Jerritt, Charlie and I were just talking about how much a difference a very supportive student body and home crowd makes. You've definitely had that, and had it again last night with the big win over Texas A&M.
Yeah, it's huge for us. You know, we when I got here after the first year, we moved all the students to the sideline, and that made a big difference for our program and caused a great environment, especially when our swimmers come out and they're part of that, and the student body is a big part of it. I don't think they realize that as much as the impact that they make. But our players talk about it all the time. The visiting teams do, and it's special to have. 3-0
defeat of the Aggies last night, and 3 finished with double-digit kills, and led by Paulina Prieto Cerame, and she had 16. And how fired up your players get also. Is there still something there about playing Texas A&M?
Well, you know, a lot of these players have never been a part of it. You know, Chloe's been part of it one time in the NCAA tournament, but no one else has been a part of that. They've only, we're fortunate to have so many great players in the state of Texas, so they grew up watching it. But to get this back on the schedule was phenomenal for us, and they knew what it meant. They were pretty jacked up. You can see their eyes and the way that they're kind of moving around in pregame. So it was just trying to make sure that they were good with their routines and not getting too hyped for it. So it was fun to always, it's always fun to beat the Aggies, and I hope we can continue the tradition.
I wanted to start off by doing that because it just happened last night, and there's a lot of conversation about the win over Texas A&M. Now, I want to give you a chance to just kind of give everybody the overview of the start to this season and how you feel about how your team is playing to this point before you get into another big weekend coming up.
Well, we feel like we got a really good group again. This could be arguably the best group of pin hitters that we have, 2 outside hitters on the right side. We're really young in the middle, and that's an area that we've got to improve on. But from the pin perspective, we've been putting up big numbers. Our offensive numbers are really, really good, and we feel good about where we're going and the development of our team. Watching film of the match last night, we're starting to do better things than we did a week ago. So we're starting to kind of dial in a little bit more, and that's great. But we still got a lot of room for improvement, because when you have young middles, that means there's a lot of holes, and make sure that we're making the right blocking reads and executing at the highest level. So our defensive numbers aren't as good as they've been in the past, but offensively our numbers are better. So we kind of got a balance there, and hopefully we can solidify that a little bit more as the season goes along.
You brought up your senior Chloe Collins. She leads in assists, 340. How about her impact, what she is doing for this otherwise pretty young team you've got?
Yeah, she's been wonderful for us this year. I think her relationship with me is really good right now. I think she's understanding kind of what we're trying to do at a high level, and her implementing the game plan has been very, very solid. And so we're working as one, and that's been great. But she's been a really good leader for the young players, and the way that she talks to them and influences them and makes sure that they know what's going on, and so they're on the same page. So we're really pleased with it, and we're lucky to have her.
How about your junior Kat McCoy leading in digs with 144, nearly 4%?
She's doing great. We moved her to the middle back a little bit more this year from the left back, and she wanted to kick and scream, and I told her that her numbers were going to go up, and she said, "I'll do it then, coach." So yeah, it's good to see that those numbers are rising, and she's doing a great job for us. I think she's learning the composure side of it, and be a little bit more calm through the thick of the battles, and she's been posting some really good numbers from the serve-receive standpoint, and that's been huge for us. And so we're lucky to have her. She's only a junior, and she's doing a great job for us.
Let me continue to move down the classification ladder and go to your sophomore Morgan Johnson, who's leading you in blocks with 34.
Yeah, Morgan has had to step in right now and move into the M1 position. She's always been an M2, which means there's 2 hitters around her at all times. So now she's kind of the lone wolf and having to kind of learn at a faster pace. But she's making some really good reads. That's the most impressive thing that she's been doing. She's jumping into angles. She's seeing. She's talking about the right things, and her development of her game continues to improve. And we need that. We need to get her the ball more, and for her numbers to go up a little bit more. But that's been the main focus of our practice for her and Nori right now.
You talk about her moving. How agonizing is too strong a term, but how intensive is it, the study that you and the staff have when you have to make the moves that you make in shifting someone over either due to graduation or injury, or how intensive is that process in determining who's going to be able to help you at some of the other positions?
That's the way that what we are faced with this year, and so it happens every year with injuries and those things. So as a coaching staff, you're usually prepared for it. It's trying to get the team to be bought into it, and then trying to make those adjustments and making it really calm for them, but making it some urgency from our coaching staff and film sessions and kind of watching and game planning our practices so we can improve in those areas. But it's what makes the job fun. It makes it enjoyable to kind of see where we can improve and what we need to tweak to get us back to that point, because you never know. Last year's squad with the injuries that we had, when they went down, we were talking about maybe a Sweet 16 team, and they just kind of kept getting better and believed in each other, and they took us for an amazing ride last year. So we've got better pins right now. We've got the opportunity to be a special team, and this year's the first time that they have the top 4 seeds get to host. So Sunday's game is critical for us and a big one for giving us that added bonus win.
You mentioned, and I've heard coaches talk about this, about being able to individually deal with different players on a team differently, because they're as individualistic as any other people as well. Is that part of the coaching challenge that you like, understanding some student athletes' buttons are pushed differently than others? You have to deal with some differently than you might others.
Yes. The only sport that calls the coach the right name is baseball. They're managers. So I refer to myself that as that's the biggest role that I have within my job, is that I've got my coaching staff, I've got the trainers and the strength coaches, the nutritionists, the academic people, and so I'm managing all these people. But then it gets down to how do they take care of our athletes. So each one comes from a different background. They're very unique, and we have to spend a lot of quality time with them to get to know them, to invest in them, to kind of know what buttons to push and how to kind of handle them. There's some players in the past, that wanted me to kind of be a little bit more stern with them. There's some players that we have now that kind of you need to pull them aside and just have a calm conversation with them so they can learn and trust you and kind of build that rapport. So it's the biggest and most important thing, I believe, as a coach, to build that rapport with the players and make sure that they have trust, know why you're doing things and have a reason behind it, and so that there's a development and a buy-in to it, so that you have a culture that is successful.
Do you get a good read from players as you recruit them as to the type of motivated or the type of motivation that they prefer, whether it's the pat on the back or the old proverbial kick in the tail, whatever it is? Right. Do you get a good read on that from all the way back to the recruiting days? And do they evolve, and does that change over time?
Well, our recruiting is so different than probably football and basketball. We are recruiting right now the 2018 class. Right. We have one left for that. We're hard on the 2019, and we're recruiting 2020. That's 8th and 9th graders. Wow. So there's a lot of risk involved with that. There's a lot of players that aren't mature yet, that aren't comfortable in their own skin. So there's a lot of development of where they're going to be then and how are they going to get there athletically, but what their personality is going to change too. We've had some really quiet players that we looked at and maybe passed on, and then they turned out to be pretty aggressive by the time they were seniors. So every year it's kind of an evolving process for us, but the recruiting for us is a little bit rolling the dice at times. So we're in terms of understanding them, it's more once they commit, getting them to call me, getting conversations with them, and more so just kind of building that trust with them. And then when they get here, we have to see, when it gets tough and we're throwing balls around and they're having to have a work ethic that's a little bit different than they're used to, is how tough are they and how are they able to kind of adapt to those situations.
Do you ever have just the opposite of what you described, where someone who is just very, very talkative as an 8th or a 9th grader or a sophomore in high school, and by the time you get them on campus, they've kind of clammed up a little bit?
We have some kids that have obviously been very successful, but we have kids sometimes that come on campus that can't function at a level because it's Texas and they've been watching it and all the media coverage, and it takes some time to adapt. Amy Neal, last year's Big 12 Player of the Year, was a prime example of that. She was the Big 12 Player of the Year, as I said, last year, but she came in as the Gatorade Player of the Year and all these accolades, won Junior Olympics, MVP of the state, and she had a really hard time. It just, the pressures of Texas and going, oh my gosh, I'm there, and the standards change, but she evolved so much, and it's such a great story for us. But you never know what you're going to get. That's why I tell our recruits, I have no idea how you're going to be until you step in our gym and see what the competition what that competition does to your morale and your confidence and how we're going to develop you as a player.
I know this is going to sound crazy, but that sounds kind of crazy, doesn't it? I mean, you say it's high risk and some of that, when you're projecting that far out, I mean, it's difficult. It's got to be an immense task for you and the staff.
Our jobs are crazy. I mean, managing that age group is always the challenge, right? You sleepless nights, kind of wondering what's going to be the factor that makes them successful or kind of sends them the other way. So it's about managing, understanding them. But when you have a staff like mine with Eric and Tanya that are so experienced, and Donnie and Deanne, and we really have a team so that we meet about our players, we understand about what each one's going through on and off the court. So we set up our little village to kind of help them on a personal level too, so they can become confident young women.
You've got, and they do quite often take that next step. I mean, just going down the list, some of the alumni that are playing professionally. We saw Rachel Adams in the Olympics and winning the bronze for the USA in Rio. She's playing in Turkey. Amber Robertson is in Dubai. Julianne Fawcett is in China. Haley Eckerman's in Italy. Cap Bell's been in Turkey. Getting a chance to play internationally. How many of your players, when they start to excel, really perform for you, start to think about the possibility of playing internationally and possibly also playing for the national team?
Well, it's something we bring in the recruiting process because most people don't know how big volleyball is internationally. These girls can make 6 figures, and the top ones have made 7 figures. And it's a great lifestyle. I think you learn a lot about who you are as a young woman when you play overseas, and we take them on a foreign trip every 4 years so they get a feel for that. But we're talking that through the process as they go, because I'm really encouraging them to do that, because I think it's a great life lesson to try to get them to acclimate to that level and play at that level, because volleyball, you're not playing your best volleyball probably till 27 to 29 years old, and so there's still a lot of development going on with that. But it's great. Kat Bell came back for a wedding just 2 days ago, and she stepped in our gym. She goes, I can't tell you how much I love playing professionally, but I would do anything to be back in this environment. And so it's fun to watch them grow up and develop and see their experiences and play in front of the big crowds. And I can't say how proud I am of Rachel and what she's gone through to get to that level. I actually got mail from her today. It was 2 Olympic jerseys for my office and our new facility. But to see her excel and be the confident woman that she is means so much. And really seeing her to kind of be able to be smart with her money and manage that. And that's the other thing that we're doing as a staff. We're spending time in extra sessions that are not included in the academic area that they help us provide, but financial things that you don't learn in college.
I wanted to get your thoughts on some of the new rules that some folks may not be familiar with this year. First of all, no intermission. What kind of impact does that have?
It was one of the things that I brought up this year to our Big 12 coaches. And
the Big 12's trying it.
Yes, Big 12 is trying it. So women's Division I NCAA volleyball is the only sport in the world that has a 10-minute break. So you watch the Olympics, everybody else is just 3 minutes. And that it's just kind of nonsense in that time. You spend 4 or 5 minutes as a coaching staff talking about what you need to do, and then you go in there and talk for about a minute. But you can't use the 10 minutes with them giving us so many pointers, because then they'll lose focus of what's going on. And then it's warming them back up and trying to get into that. And with the replay system, that's taken time. So everyone that's coming to our gym has liked it. I think it's way better. It keeps continuity. Our fans like it. And I think it's going to be better for the sport.
Well, you brought up replay. Of course, the coaches can challenge the officials' call. We started in the Big 12 last year. It's now being used by most schools, and it will be used during the NCAA championships. You were a big part on getting a lot of this started. You mentioned the one thing about the no intermission. What about your thoughts on the replay?
The replay is a must. It's far from perfect right now. Where there's lots of mistakes being made, because depending on the camera angles or what cameras they have, we don't even have a unified camera system yet for the sport of volleyball. But we're working on that. I'm working on that with some people. The Big Ten's working on that. But it's a must. It's the people that watch the Olympics, of how fun that was to kind of see the replays. It would be great to eventually get the point where we can get a Hawkeye so that the game slows down, but that is a very expensive unit. So, but
getting that all across Division I would be difficult, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think you need to get maybe one per conference, and the TV matches you can kind of ship it around and use that, and then at least you have it for the 4 regional sites and the semifinals and that. But the way that we're going about it, the fans, it needs to be on the replay monitor. The NCAA is not allowing that right now. The communication to fans of what we're arguing isn't very clear to the fans. So there's still a lot of things that need to be cleaned up. But you want to get it right. And the game is moving at such a fast pace that I think it's appropriate. There's been some calls that we were on the negative side on 2 years ago against BYU. Last year Florida got a tough call here in Game 5. So you want to make sure that you're getting it right, or just giving yourself the best opportunity for that.
You mentioned Wisconsin. Second-ranked Texas will host number 6 Wisconsin, and currently with just one loss to top-ranked Nebraska. So the match at Gregory Gym Sunday at noon. Haven't seen Wisconsin since the 2013 Final Four. What are your thoughts on facing the Badgers?
Yeah, they're well coached. They got arguably the best setter in the country in Carlini. That's a senior. They've got good, solid middles, and they're going to play great defense. Their defensive numbers are significantly better than ours at this point, but hopefully that our offensive numbers can challenge that a little bit and change the game. It's going to be great, but we need every fan, and we encourage you, if you're listening to the show and that, to spread the word so we can sell this out. I think we've got about 900 more tickets from as of this morning, so we need you. The student section, hopefully they'll be waking up and having some breakfast tacos and rolling out of bed to come and support us. But it's a big time game for us. It's really important, and we appreciate the support.
Always great to see you. Appreciate you dropping by.
Thank you very much.
All right, Jerritt Elliott with us, Texas volleyball coach, second-ranked Longhorns. Charlie Strong rejoins us with Longhorn Weekly. Will continue on the Longhorn IMG Radio Network.